Hello again, and welcome to part 2 of our presentation on the JAX Grant Program. The Japanese American Confinement Sites Grant Program, also known as the JAX Grant Program, provides federal funding to preserve and interpret the history of Japanese Americans during World War II and is administered by the National Park Service. This presentation will highlight projects that were awarded grants in the 2019 fiscal year, as well as the projects that were completed that year. Here we have a modern-day aerial view of the immigration station at Ellis Island. In 2019, the Japanese American Association of New York was awarded $80,000 for an oral history project focusing on Japanese Americans who were detained at Ellis Island and also those who established communities in New York and other locations on the East Coast. JAX grants are awarded to private nonprofit organizations, educational institutions, state, local, and tribal governments, and other public entities. The Fred T. Korematsu Institute is one such entity. In 2019, the Institute received funding for a project called Double Displacement, exploring the intersecting histories of American Indian communities and Japanese American confinement sites in Arizona. This black and white photo shows blocks of residential barracks at the historic Gila River Relocation Center. In August 2019, the JAX Grant Program awarded 19 grants for projects in 8 states. These grants total more than $2.8 million. One of these provided around $85,000 to the University of Denver for a project called Snapshots of Confinement. This project will create a feature-length documentary that tells the story of the Manzanar and Amachi incarceration sites. This black and white photo shows several people walking along a dirt road near barracks at the Granada Relocation Center, also known as Amachi. A canvassed army truck drives down the road. Every year, the National Park Service produces a newsletter that features the most recent JAX grant recipients, as well as projects that were completed the previous year. For example, an exhibit developed by the Go for Broke National Education Center completed its tour of the country last year. This traveling exhibit was called Courage and Compassion, Our Shared Story of the Japanese American World War II Experience. It focused on communities that helped Japanese Americans during and after the war. Here we have 2 photos of information panels from the exhibition. Several dozen paper tags hang from the ceiling over a picture of a Japanese American family wearing identification tags. Another JAX project was completed by the National Trust for Historic Preservation, who documented and preserved more than 7,000 items for the Panama Hotel, located in Seattle, Washington. Left in the basement of the hotel for safekeeping, these trunks, suitcases, and boxes of personal possessions sat largely untouched for nearly 75 years. A layer of dust covers a stack of leather trunks and suitcases found in the basement of the Panama Hotel. Several documentaries were completed in 2019. Resistance at Tule Lake tells the story of Japanese Americans at the Tule Lake Segregation Center who protested their imprisonment. Our Lost Years takes a look at the lasting impact of World War II incarceration and explores the many layers of loss, including loss of home, of community, of dignity, and of self-worth. Silent Sacrifice won a regional Emmy Award for Best Historical Documentary. It focuses on the incarceration of Japanese Americans from California's Central Valley. Respectively, the grant recipients for these projects were Third World Newsreel, the San Diego chapter of the Japanese American Citizens League, and Valley PBS. This slide shows the posters for all 3 films. There are many more wonderful projects featured in the newsletter, but now we'd like to take the opportunity to hear from a few JAX grant recipients who will talk about their projects themselves.
From the National Japanese American Historical Society, Japanese American Confinement Sites, or JAX, grant projects.
Hello, my name is Melissa Yumi Bailey, and I am the Program Development Associate at the National Japanese American Historical Society, or NINJAS for short. I will be speaking about our 3 most recently completed JAX projects. The Untold Stories Department of Justice Internment Teacher Education Project was awarded in 2016 for education and interpretation. Teacher training workshops with accompanying site visits were conducted with local teachers in multiple states. We work in coordination with our partners, the National Park Service, confinement sites, community experts and scholars, former incarcerees, and of course with our classroom teachers to develop content. All of our curricula is available for free on our website. From the camps they served, Nisei Soldier Digitization Project was a documentation grant awarded in 2017. 277 objects from the Nisei Soldier military collection were digitized and uploaded to the University of San Francisco's Gleason Library Digital Collections online database, bringing the database total to 1,242. This project was led by Professor Paloma Anoveros from the Museum Studies graduate program, with student interns instructed by Max Nihei, NINJA's Exhibitions and Collections Manager, The project's intent was to make ninjas extensive collections from the Nisei soldiers of the famed 100th Battalion, 442nd Regimental Combat Team, and the Military Intelligence Service publicly accessible. Dislocation and Divergence, the causes and consequences of Executive Order 9066, was awarded in 2017 for interpretation and education. It's located within the Military Intelligence Service Historic Learning Center at the Presidio of San Francisco. The exhibit illuminates the causes and conditions leading up to the outbreak of war against Japan and the implementation of the executive order, the hidden truths behind it, and the hidden treasures of an incarceree's buried past. At the Record Search Kiosk, viewers can explore the ninjas' digital archives or research their own family's records. A map of the confinement sites is placed alongside a replica horse cell barrack. Collectively, we believe these projects have profound, life-changing impact on the people who see and experience them. As the Yonsei granddaughter of Hiroshi and Harue Kobata, two Heart Mountain camp survivors, as well as James Bailey, a Caucasian soldier stationed at the Presidio of San Francisco in 1940, I feel a strong sense of responsibility to share and preserve this history, so future generations can learn and connect these stories to their own experiences. The JAX grants are critical to telling those truths through multiple lenses, allowing the public to critically investigate, explore, and discover for themselves these lessons for all of humanity.
Thank you to the Japanese American Confinement Sites Grant Program, the National Park Service, and the Department of the Interior for funding these projects. For more information on our projects, programs, events, and exhibitions, and to view the online digital archives, please visit our website at www.njahs.org.
Hi, I'm Dakota Russell, Executive Director of the Heart Mountain, Wyoming Foundation. I'm coming to you today from our site here in northwestern Wyoming, and more specifically, from inside of our 1943 original Heart Mountain root cellar. This cellar is one of two massive underground structures, this one's over 300 feet long, that were designed and built by Japanese American incarcerees here at Heart Mountain to hold all of the produce that was grown at the farms here on the project. As some of you may know, our winters here in Wyoming can be unusually long and harsh. And so being able to preserve the vegetables and keep the population of the camp, nearly 11,000 people, well fed throughout one of these winters was quite a challenging task. And the incarcerees here rose to it, to the point where they even harvested the timbers for the cellar themselves. They took over a sawmill in the nearby Shoshone National Forest, cut down all the trees, hauled all the logs back here, and constructed these buildings to make sure that the community here at Heart Mountain could survive the roughest season of the year. Because of that, and because this building is the only surviving building that we have that was entirely built by the incarcerees themselves, it is especially important that we preserve and restore this structure. We are incredibly fortunate to have had the support of the National Park Service through the Japanese American Confinement Sites Grant Program to do this. We've received to date 3 grants from the JAX program, one in 2013 to begin planning how we were going to restore this project, one in 2015 to begin the first exploratory stages and the temporary stabilization, and finally our most recent one in 2019 that will actually allow us to continue restoration here inside of the cellar and also to restore one of the entrances so we can start bringing the public down in here to learn this story for themselves. Without the JAX program, it's unlikely that we would have been able to do this. This is a massive undertaking, and it takes a great deal of vision as well as a great deal of funding. And it's hard to find folks that are willing to fund big dreams like this. But the National Park Service has recognized the value of saving structures like the Heart Mountain Root Cellar and created the JAX program to help sites like ours that are entirely run by small nonprofits to realize those dreams and to make sure that this history is here for future generations. For those reasons, the JAX program has been invaluable to us, and we appreciate everything that they've done to help us make our dreams a reality.
Hi there, my name is Jason Matsumoto. I am the co-founder and director of operations of Full Spectrum Features. We are a 501c3 nonprofit located in Chicago, and we exist to uplift underrepresented voices in the film and media landscape. In 2015, we received a grant from the National Park Service Japanese American Confinement Sites under the Interpretation and Education section of the grant. The award was for a program and project called The Orange Story, a cinematic digital history of Japanese American incarceration during World War II. It's a mouthful, I know. We typically just call it The Orange Story. It was a film and educational project where we shot a short narrative film, about 18 minutes long, and we paired that with a group of educational advisors, curriculum developers, folks who could take the history that we were trying to tell through the film and then turn that into an educational tool that students and teachers and the community and the public can use. The intention was for this to not be tied to any one single site. We thought that, we hope that everybody, no matter whether, you are part of or run an incarceration site through the National Park Service, we hope that all the education centers can easily use this tool, can have access to this tool. And so our project was not particularly tied to any one historic incarceration site. So filmmaking and film, whether it's documentary or whether it's scripted narrative, just visual storytelling is very impactful. If I were to think back and consider the impact of what the Orange Story had on the history and preservation of Japanese American incarceration, I would hope that we have helped people to see and understand why narrative filmmaking is a viable path to developing empathy and ultimately teaching history. And I think when you consider kind of the canon of documentaries and scripted narrative films, short stories, books, all these things, they become a strong collection of content that people with different learning abilities, different interests, different learning styles can kind of wrap their heads around all these different types of content. So I think the diversity of content that has been developed and produced, whether it's through the JAX grant or through some other form of funding, is incredibly important. And it speaks to how our community is both valuing and pushing our story forward. So the story in the project is, I would say, a natural kind of step in my own journey of, finding my voice to very confidently and accurately speak about the Japanese American incarceration, what that did to my own family, what that did to our community, and how these concepts are continuing to be used to oppress and incarcerate people from other backgrounds, right? And I think it's been a really important project to dive into and to think about in terms of its impact, outside of myself. JAX is an unbelievably important source of funding. I cannot stress that enough. I think when I look at the lists of historic projects, and when I look at what is being created today by using the JAX grant, the amount of education, knowledge, preservation, history that has been brought to light and continues to be brought to light and continues to be improved upon, I think is a big reason why the Japanese American community has such a strong voice in telling our own history and in advocating for other communities as well. The JAX grant has, at least for Full Spectrum and for myself, it really was the origination point for our organization. The kind of administrative and organizational things that we had to build, the infrastructure that we had to build to house and to manage the grant for this project, the Orange Story, that is what established Full Spectrum as an organization. And that's what kind of compelled us to create this structure. And now 5 or 6 years later, we're doing films with different communities across all kinds of different identities. And all this doesn't happen without us getting this JAX grant in 2015 and us having to think about what is the organizational structure and what is this model of filmmaking that we're building. And so for us, and for me personally, the Japanese American Confinement Sites grant has really changed my life in some ways, and has really compelled me to continue to think about how we use visual storytelling, cinematic storytelling, and how we develop new models around education. Thank you very much. Thank you for the opportunity to share all this with you, and have a good day.
For the next installment about the JAX Grant program, we will take a look at the next application cycle and provide tips on how to apply for a JAX grant. For more information about the JAX Grant program, please visit our website at www.nps.gov/JACS or give us a call. To call Kara Miyagishima, dial 303-969-2885. To call Rachel Franklin Weekly, dial 402-661-1928. Or to call Tom Leatherman, dial 510-778-4171. Photo credits include Carol M. Highsmith Archive of the Library of Congress, Densho, Go for Broke National Education Center, National Trust for Historic Preservation, Valley PBS, San Diego chapter of the Japanese American Citizens League, and Third World Newsreel. Thanks for watching and have a great week!